Baby crying. More than a year has passed since our 2-year-old daughter was hit by a car, but Sveta was never able to recover from her grief. The more time passed, the more her pain grew. Sveta quit her job, which she loved very much, cut off all contacts with friends and relatives, cried more and more at night. More than once I found her sorting through Alinka's things and toys in the middle of the night. The wife flatly refused to get rid of them. Sveta could look at the photo of her daughter on the phone from late evening until the very morning. I was in a lot of pain too, but I tried to be strong. For the light. At first, it seemed to me that my beloved just needed time to pull herself together and try to somehow start living on, but every month the situation continued to worsen. My wife was fading before our eyes. The apogee of everything was the case when Svetlana left home for the store and did not return. She was gone for 2 days. I lost my feet, looking for my wife, raised the ears of all the police, friends and acquaintances. And we managed to find it. At the cemetery. Sveta sat and sobbed over her daughter's grave all this time. My heart bled when I saw this picture. In a thin autumn coat, kneeling in the snow and leaning against the monument, trembling, unhappy mother burst into tears. But the most terrible was her gaze, wandering and absolutely detached. As much as I wanted to admit it, I couldn't. Light needed a doctor's help. After therapy, the wife's health began to improve. The treatment was beneficial to her. At one of the last sessions, the doctor recommended that we change our place of residence so that Sveta could be less distracted by memories and return to normal life sooner. So we did, changing the apartment to a similar one, but in another area of the city. The first few months after the move, everything went well. Sveta was even going to return to work and was already looking for options. But then everything changed dramatically. One night I found my wife sitting on the kitchen floor, staring at the wall. I dreamed of Alina. She asked me to pick her up. She said that she was cold and scared, Sveta said without emotion. Trying to be calm, I helped my wife up and put her to bed. But a few days later the situation happened again. She is there, Sveta said. I hear her crying. Who? Where exactly? I didn't understand. Alina. She is there, the wife pointed her finger at the wall. I hear her crying. I dream about her every night and asks me to pick her up. I'm going crazy soon. Sveta, the doctor said that dreams sometimes. You do not understand. I hear her. She calls me for help. Sveta screamed. It took a lot of effort for me to calm my wife and bring her back to the bedroom. At that moment, I again felt my powerlessness. I did not want to relive this whole nightmare again. Svetlana's state of mind continued to deteriorate. One night she woke me up and said she heard Alina crying. I strained my ears, but it was useless. Light went crazy. The next day, my neighbors called me and said that if I didn't calm my wife down right away, they would call the police. Having abandoned everything and rushed home from work, I found Sveta with a puncher in her hands, with which she was pounding the wall in the kitchen. God. Sveta. What are you doing? I was frightened, trying to take away the puncher from my wife. Where did you get it at all? By the time I arrived, my beloved had already drilled a lot of holes in the wall. It seemed that a few more blows and she would pierce the wall through and through. Get off. Alina is there. Let me go. Sveta burst out, choking on tears. I have to save her. Alina is dead. I couldn't take it anymore and started screaming. Understand? She can't be returned. We need to live on. I can hear her crying. She calls me. The wife did not let up. Sveta. You can't hear anything. I specifically asked all the neighbors. No one has small children. It's all in your head. No. No. She is calling me. Sveta began a real hysteria. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't calm her down. It was painful for me to decide on this, but at that time I did not see any other way out. I called an ambulance. The arriving brigade injected Sveta with a powerful sedative, and his wife passed out in an instant. I was offered to take her to the hospital, but I couldn't. My Sveta isn't crazy, it's just. I didn't know what followed this, simple. After escorting the doctors and thanking them for their help with a ruble, I carried my wife into the bedroom, and I myself went to the kitchen. I was shaking all over. A swarm of thoughts buzzed in my head and there was emptiness at the same time. I had no idea what to do next. And suddenly I heard crying. A real baby crying. The sound was coming from the wall. Looks like I've gone crazy now. I went to the mutilated wall and put my ear to it. The child wheezed and choked with a cry. It seems like it took a lot of effort for him to cry. I remembered how Alina screamed, but this crying behind the wall was somehow unhealthy. There was definitely something wrong with the child. It turns out that the neighbor deceived me and someone still has small children. Although, stop. It's the next door. It is unlikely that he could know. Or maybe does that seem like it at all? I listened. Silence. The crying stopped. Waited a few more minutes. The child was silent. To make sure that I'm not crazy, I checked the sleeping Sveta and went to the next entrance. When I got to the right floor, I rang the doorbell. They don't have a call. Don't try. A grandmother looked out from the apartment opposite and stared at me intently. It seems decently dressed. What did you forget here? Tell me, do your neighbors have children? Thank God no. There is nothing to produce freaks. The old woman barked. Freaks. Why are you so? They are drug addicts. Zbudiji would have died sooner. Only srok from them at the entrance. The old woman continued to spit bile. I knocked with my fist on the door of the apartment where the child was supposed to be. Useless. Maybe I'm crazy and there's no baby. But if there really was a baby who needed help, I'd rather be considered a psycho, but I have to make sure. After a bit of confusion, I decided to call the police. When the arriving squad of police officers opened the door, a sharp smell of urine and dirty body. Foil, syringes, unwashed dishes and alcohol cans lay everywhere. In the kitchen, the police found a man who was passed out, and in the bathroom lay the bloodied corpse of a woman. The child was nowhere to be found. Near the wall bordering our apartment, there was a large wooden cabinet. It was like I felt something. I cannot explain. As if something of mine was lying there, in this shabby closet. Ignoring the cries of the servants of the law, I rushed to the closet and opened the door. In the shoe box lay a tiny baby, grimy, without a mattress, without a diaper, on a bare cardboard. My heart sank from this sight. The baby's eyes were closed. He was sleeping or. Am I too late? Here. Here. I screamed in despair. He is here. As it turned out later, the dead woman in the bathroom was the mother of the baby found in the closet. She gave birth to a boy a few days ago, in that same dirty apartment. During the next dose of drugs, the woman began to bleed, and she died in an unconscious state. I still cannot find an explanation for how Sveta could feel the child behind the wall long before his birth and why she behaved that way on that day. And I don't know how I could hear crying so clearly through the wall and closet, because the child was very emaciated and could not scream loudly. Relatives did not need the baby, and after discussing everything with his wife, we decided to take him to us. When Bogdan began to live with us, Sveta again became the same. But, What is most surprising, the baby has exactly the same birthmark under the knee that Aralina had. Kolobok. With the exception of Ignat, who was returning home from a long business trip, the driver and a glove doll forgotten by one of the passengers, the evening bus was empty. When Ignat got tired of looking out the window, he turned his attention to the doll. Brown, with a round, ribbed head and a blue clown nose, she was somewhat reminiscent of animated cookies from children's cartoons. Ozia left you a piece of birthday cake in the fridge. Dinner on a skillet. We are going to sleep. Kisses, read a message from his wife Ignat. Ignat breaks a sweat. While the man was on a business trip, he kept putting off buying a gift for his daughter until later. And then, later, came. Ignat did not buy a gift, and all the shops were already closed. The man really did not want to upset his daughter, and then an idea came to his mind. What if he took with him a doll forgotten on the bus? Ignat took the toy in his hands. Clean, tidy, like new. The man put his hand inside the glove puppet and tried to control it. I'm a funny cookie. I came to wish you a happy birthday. Gingerbread man, a displeased, squeaky voice was heard very close by. Ignat turned his head around. The bus was still empty and the driver was too far away. Having decided that it seemed to him, the man put Kolobok into the bag and again plunged into his thoughts. I am a gingerbread man, a ruddy sighed. Ignat put a doll on his hand and tickled the nose of the sleeping Ozia. I came to wake up the little princess in the garden. Folder. Hearing a familiar voice, Ozia woke up and rushed to hug her father. All morning the man entertained the girl with a new doll. Ozia was very pleased with the gift and gladly played along with her father. I wish I could buy her some candy, the wife of Ignat whispered angrily in parting, while Ozia did not see. She was clearly not delighted with the doll and, it seems, guessed everything. When Ignat closed the door behind his wife and child, he turned to Kolobok and said, Got it, buddy. Thank you. Now we are alone and we can relax. Great. Otherwise, I'm already tired of pretending to be a cheerful piece of shit, the glove puppet swore in a squeaky voice. Ignat was numb. Now he was staring at his hand like a ram. What are you staring at? We have a lot to do, Kolobok squeaked again. Ignat squealed loudly, like a frightened schoolgirl, and began to shake his hand to throw Kolobok off her. But no matter how hard the man tried, he did not succeed. The fabric was too tight around his wrist. Hey, take it easy. I'm going to have a concussion. Squealed the doll, giggling nastily. Ignat ran to the kitchen and took out scissors to cut the glove. But as soon as the scissors touched the tissue, the man experienced severe pain at the incision site, as if he were trying to cut his own skin. We are now one with you, Kolobok continued to have fun. No matter how Ignat tried to remove the vile doll from his hand, nothing came of it. Gingerbread man became a part of him. Moreover, the man realized with horror that he had lost control of his limb. Now she was completely at the mercy of the glove puppet. The doorbell rang in the apartment. Ooh. We have guests. I love guests, squealed Kolobok. Shut up, Ignat shouted. He prayed to God that all this was just a dream to him. The hand with Kolobok twitched and opened the door against the will of the man. On the threshold of the apartment stood Ignat's mistress, Valia. The man automatically hid his hand with the doll behind his back. Gone? Valia asked as she walked into the corridor. God. How I missed all these days. What are you hiding there? Valia dived sharply behind Ignat's back. What's this? Role-playing games? The woman asked playfully. Valia, you'd better leave. Shish #ha. squealed Kolobok. What kind of jokes? Valia looked at Ignat incomprehensibly. Go away. Shish hashtag ha. Valia, it's not me. It is he. Ignat pleaded, pointing to the hand with the doll. The gingerbread man shot up, and the fingers of Ignat's right hand closed on the woman's throat. What you? Let go, Valia croaked. Ignat did his best to tear Kolobok away from his mistress, but he grabbed her by the neck with a death grip. The woman's face began to turn red, her eyes rolled back. In a few minutes it was all over. Valentina was dead. What have you done? Ignat whined over the body of his mistress. Saved your marriage. Gingerbread man burst into laughter. You didn't know how to tell her it was over. She won't blackmail you anymore. I helped you. Do not thank. Ignat did not know what to do. Everything that happened just did not fit in his head. Now get ready for work. We are late. We have a lot to do. No. Now I'll call the police. Ignat's words were interrupted by a wild throbbing pain in his arm. The man fell to his knees and howled. You don't seem to understand, my friend, gingerbread man squeaked. Now I'm a puppeteer here, and you are my doll. Ignat had to obey. He did not know what the infernal doll was up to, but he felt that it was something terrible. Kolobok ordered the man to go straight to the boss's office. When Ignat entered, Kolobok tightly closed the door and propped it up with a chair, and then went to the leader. Ignat, what is it? Circus. What are you doing here? The chief was indignant. Thief. You only pretend to be kind, but your insides are rotten, shouted Kolobok and dragged the stubborn Ignat to the boss. A knife flashed in Kolobok's paws. Ignat tried to resist, but Kolobok caused him unbearable all-consuming pain, reverberating in every cell of his body, and the man had no choice. Ignat felt how splashes of warm blood gushing from the fresh wounds of the chief flooded his face, while Kolobok delivered blow after blow to the man's heart. Ready, asshole. We are a great team, Kolobok rejoiced. But don't stay here too long. We have more things to do. Kolobok ordered Ignat to wash off the blood from his face and change his clothes. He knew that the chief I always kept a spare suit in my closet. Leaving the building through the back exit, Kolobok ordered Ignat to go towards the house. What are you going to do now? Ignat asked, anticipating the worst. Visit your daughter, exclaimed Kolobok. After all, because of her, you still live with this eternally dissatisfied Grimza. I will help you get rid of this addiction. No. But not Azia. Please. Ignat pleaded in despair. Infernal pain spread with lightning speed from the hand of Ignat and hit in the head. The man fell into the darkness. When consciousness returned to him, he found himself standing over the bed, in which Azia was sleeping peacefully. During the time that Ignat was passed out, Kolobok managed to take possession of his body and infiltrate the kindergarten group. By this time, there was already blood on the man's hands. Awoke. Great. I've been in charge here a bit. You do not mind, squealed the glove puppet on Ignat's hand. I had to get rid of the teacher. We do not need extra witnesses, right? And now let's get started. Gingerbread man brought a knife over the body of an unsuspecting little girl, aiming the point at the very heart. Ignat tried to resist, but Kolobok was stronger. The man's hand went down in a quick motion. The policeman who ran up managed to knock out a knife from the killer's hand, and his colleagues were already twisting the stubborn Ignat. Gingerbread man squealed furiously. Ignat's body was pierced by a hellish agony of pain. When Ignat's wife saw that her husband was entertaining his daughter with an empty milk bag, calling him Kolobok, the woman at first did not attach much importance to this, deciding that he simply forgot to buy a gift and thus was trying to get out. She was angry with her husband, and therefore, after taking her daughter to the garden, she returned home to talk to him. In the hallway, a woman saw Valentina dead and called the police. Ignat was immediately put on the wanted list. The law enforcement officers were late to the head of the man. When they arrived, he was already dead. But, fortunately, the police managed to get on the trail of the killer in time and prevent another terrible tragedy. As the doctors said, strong emotional stress provoked shifts in Ignat's mind. Apparently, the dismissal from work affected. Ignat was fired a few days ago, and he did not go on any business trip. Where Ignat was all this time is unknown. Protecting himself from external stimuli that destabilize the patient's emotional background, the man's consciousness created a Kolobok for himself, which was supposed to solve all his problems. My name. Hello. Sergei Vitalyevich fell ill and could not go to work. A man of about 40 with perfectly styled dark hair entered a small cozy office. My name is Arkady Semyonovich Gul. Do you mind if I host the reception today? No, it's all right. I just need someone to talk to. A short man in a gray sweater answered him and sighed sadly. That is great, the psychologist beamed, demonstrating his perfect snow-white smile. Then let's start. Tell me what's troubling you. The patient again sighed heavily and began his story. You know, since childhood, my mother told me that I was a unique child. Probably, this is natural and every mother thinks so. Although I took it literally. Perhaps the fact that I was the only child in the family also affected, and I got all the attention of my parents, grandparents. As I got older, I was surprised to learn that my name is, how shall I put it, not unique. That there are other boys whose names are exactly the same as mine, you understand. Not to say that I was greatly outraged by this fact, but some discomfort was still there. Here you are, for example, walking down the street and suddenly someone calls you by name. You turn around and realize that it wasn't you. And immediately some kind of stupid feeling arises, disappointment, or something. Unpleasant feeling, agree. The doctor shook his head vaguely in response. His face took on a slightly bored expression, which he tried to hide behind the mask of an attentive listener. The patient did not pay much attention to this and continued. At an early age, I did not attach much importance to this. But over the years, my dissatisfaction began to grow. Ironically, in the 10th grade, a new kid came to us. My full namesake by name and surname. Only the middle name was different. How it annoyed me when the teachers got confused. The apogee of everything was the case when I won the regional Olympiad in mathematics, and the letter came not with my name, but with his. The head teacher mixed up and submitted incorrect participant data. Can you imagine? Our common name with him, our surname, and his patronymic. Of course, then the mistake was corrected, but I no longer felt unique. Anger at my classmate lurked in me, which was gaining strength every day. I didn't hold back at graduation. When I saw that this guy had too much alcohol and became a real laughingstock, a disgrace to my name and surname, rage seized me. I lured a classmate out into the street under some innocent pretext, led a cafe around the corner, grabbed his head and slammed his face against the wall with all my might. Then again and again. With each blow, life left him, and I was gradually filled with a sense of completeness, as if I was returning back some stolen part of myself. The psychologist was no longer bored. Now, with undisguised fear and surprise, he was staring at the man in the gray sweater, who calmly continued his speech. I was the best in the class, What's there, in the whole school? Besides, I'm also an athlete. No one could have imagined that I was capable of such a thing. I myself, to be honest, did not expect. As a result, everyone decided that the boy was a victim of hooligans. But that is not all. After school, I graduated from the institute with honors and got a prestigious job. During this time I have not met a single namesake on my way. Until one day in one of the social networks I received an offer to join a group where only people with my surname consisted. They were glad that they were not unique and created a whole group. The mind is incomprehensible. I still remember how I broke out in a cold sweat at that moment. I again became a gray meaningless mass, one of many. I began to look through the profiles of my namesakes. Those who have the same name as me, not only names, but also surnames. I counted 18 such people in the group. And then I found 11 more through other sources. None of them were even close to me. Photos in a drunken stupor, ugly tattoos that do not carry any meaning, one even worked as a garbage man. They were not worthy. Completely inappropriate behavior, dishonorable to my honor. They dishonored themselves and me. I couldn't stand it. I had to be unique again. What did you do with them? The psychologist no longer tried to restrain himself, there was undisguised fear in his eyes. I got rid of my unworthy copies. You killed them all. No, not all. There was only one left. The patient took out a pistol and pointed it at Arkady Semyonovich's chest, looking intently into his eyes. Your colleague didn't get sick, did he? He just didn't show up for work, and the secretary couldn't get through to him, right? I knew that you would be sent to replace him. But if you need me, then why didn't you sign up with me? That would be too suspicious. I would have to show my real documents. And you don't know your colleague's patients by sight. Or do I look like Fyodor Ivanov? He, by the way, also today, could not come to the session. Man in a gray sweater cocked the trigger. You will be caught. There are cameras everywhere. They won't get caught. Today is Sunday, and there is no one in the clinic, except for you and me and the security guard. And he is sleeping at this time. Your cameras are fake, I checked everything. Wait, what have I done to you? I'm not on social media at all. You are not on social media. But you are on the clinic's website. I lead a healthy lifestyle, and I have no tattoos. Why didn't I please you? The psychologist was in despair. Reviews about you are not very good, said Arkady Gul and pulled the trigger.